Mayor Eric Adams is involved in an increasingly volatile tug-of-war with the city council over who gets the final say over agency heads. He's determined to win, but will he? So, Mr. Mayor, the battle lines are drawn. The city council wants the right to approve 21 different agency heads, not police or not fire, but things like sanitation and buildings and health. And they point out to the fact that in the state government, the Senate gets to approve, advise, and consent on all the appointments. So why should it happen in the state and not the city? Why do you think it's a bad idea in New York City?
Well, I think the city forefathers, those who wrote the beginning of how they want this done, laid out the reason why some of this stuff moves at a very swift pace. They presented their proposal. We disagree with it, and we're going to just stand firm on. I have the obligation and responsibility to get hundreds of thousands of people who voted for me as mayor to appoint commissioners to execute plans. That's really timely on some of these plans that we have to do.
But why should the city be special and not have the same kinds of advice and consent as the state?
No, I don't think we're special. I did not create these rules. These are the same rules that previous mayors have been under. These are the same rules that have been in place, and they've been working for our city, and we just disagree. And just the same as I shared, I wouldn't want to pick the chairs of committees. I don't want to of the city council. City council have committee chairs, public safety, land use, etc. I don't want to say to the speaker, I want to pick your committee chairs. That doesn't make any sense to me. So
is this a clash of philosophies, the moderate mayor versus a, quote, progressive city council?
I don't know. I think Adrian and I cut from the same cloth, both Bayside High School alumni. When you look at what we have accomplished, 95% of the things we agree on. We've been able to really get housing built, public safety, manage the migrant crises. So I think that we're from the same community, the same mindset. Are there those in the council who have extreme views that are just counter to mine? Like, I don't believe we should move children, school safety agents from school. I don't believe we should take down our police department, disband our police department. I don't believe we should have people protest in the street calling for the destruction of America. We just have a philosophical disagreement. That's not what I believe the speaker is.
So in this debate, there was a city councilwoman from Queens, Vicky Palladino, who said that giving them the ability to advise and consent on these agency heads, quote, would lock in progressive control over this entire city. Is that something that you agree with? That if they were to go through and have the ability to approve your appointments, that it would lock in progressive control?
Well, I think that Councilwoman Palladino, shared what her thoughts were, and I've been very clear that the people of the city, hundreds of thousands of people, elect the mayor, not just a small number. They want to hold the mayor responsible. I want to be held responsible if trash is not picked up. I want to be held responsible if our children are not educated, as the state gave us mayoral accountability. The mayors should be held responsible for the delivery of goods and services in the city, not get into a political back and forth with the council to determine who the commissioner is going to be.
So your response to this was to appoint a charter revision commission that's supposed to make recommendations by August 5th. The question is, what do you expect them to do? And one of the things that I thought was sort of interesting is that you wanted them to look at contributions to public safety. Was this a reaction to council bills which would, like, for example, how many stops, which would try to dictate what happens in the police department? Do you think that this is not a good thing? I mean, should the council be able to dictate police policy, or should that be left up to the mayor and the police commissioner?
Well, this was not a response to their actions, their bill. In April, early April, we received a letter from constituents in the city, a cross-section of constituents, who asked to meet with me. They met with me in May. Right. And during that meeting, they asked, can we put a charter commission in place? We basically agreed at that time. And when we notified the council that we were going to do a charter revision, they called us and say, hey, by the way, we're going to do this bill. So we were not responding to that. I want to be clear on that.
So, but here's the question.
Yes.
What do you want them to to do in terms of public safety. I mean, do you think that there should be something in the charter that says that the mayor and the police commissioner set police policy?
And it wasn't what I wanted, as I stated. They came to me.
But do you think that there's a feeling?
Oh, my personal belief, I believe that we have to be very careful when we do things that impact public safety. Public safety is the prerequisite to our prosperity.
And you were very upset with the How Many Stops Act and other things because you argued at the time that this would make it more difficult for police to do their jobs.
I wasn't the only one upset. We heard from a countless number of New Yorkers, and I believe that there's just a philosophical disagreement. I am really surprised at how many lawmakers really see the police as an enemy and not part of the foundation of our safety. But I say all the time, something happens, people call 911.
So here's the question, though. Yes. Would you, I'm not telling you to say, I want the Charter Revision Commission to do this. I know you're not ordering them to do that, but would you like to see something in what they come up with that would curtail the ability of the city council to set police policy and tell police how to police? I
want a cross-section of New Yorkers that are making up the charter revision, Carlos Cicero, all those who are part of it. I want them to sit down. Reverend Herbert Daughtry, who has been a real advocate for police reform. I want them to sit down and look at how public safety should be dealt with in our city, should we deal with budgeting issues in our city. This is a great opportunity to do some amazing things with a charter revision.
But as a former police officer and as the mayor and as the person who appoints the police commissioner and has more than a working knowledge of how the police department should operate, does it trouble you that people who have no working knowledge of the police department can then dictate how the police can go about doing their job?
Oh, without a doubt. It does trouble me. And I don't think people know the delicacies of proper policing. I advocated for proper policing as a police officer, as a state senator and a borough president. And I think of this black and white philosophy of policing without understanding the complexities surrounding it. I think we can make huge mistakes that can have long-term implications. We're seeing it already with recidivism. We're seeing the person who shot Detective Dillard was arrested 20 times. And the person in the car with him that had a gun was out on a gun charge, and now there's a gun found in the car. So we're seeing action, everything from shoplifting. How do you have such a small number of people who are arrested 7,600 times for different crimes in the city? So we're seeing the impact of those that really are hurting what I think are public safety concerns.
So would you, as mayor, like to see something in the charter that specifies that the mayor and the police commissioner are the ones in charge of setting police policy, not the city council?
Well, first of all, we are. We set police.
They keep passing these bills you don't like.
There's a difference between laws and policy. There's difference between laws and policies. The policies that you see
set out. But what about the laws they pass that you hate?
And I can disagree with that, but this is the system of governance that we have.
But the charter could change that.
And I think that those who are going to sit down and ask us to meet with them in April, they have an opportunity now to determine what the charter is going to look like. I respect the system of government. Our system of government states that there should be checks and balances, and I respect that. I don't have to like all the checks and balances that are put in place, but I think this is a great system that we have, and I respect it, and I'm going to utilize my tools to make sure I keep the city safe for working class people.
But it's clearly been a tense time between you and the city council over several issues, not only police policy, but also, you know, in terms of the appointments, and other issues have come up. I know you agree on the budget, and that's part of the job of both agencies, but I'm wondering if you think that members of the city council, especially the progressive members of the city council that you clash with, actually represent the views of their constituents. I, over the last week, took a look at the voter turnout in all 51 city council districts. And I want to tell you, there's 173,000 people in every city council district. Some of these council members get elected with 1,000 votes, 1,200 votes. The biggest one I think I saw was 20,000 votes out of 173,000 people. Do you think that these people represent the people that they are elected to represent?
First of all, I think it's alarming when we don't have the voter participation that come out. I was in certain council districts, and people were saying they strongly oppose some of the actions, particularly like the How Many Stops Act, but they didn't vote. They threw up their hands and said they don't believe in the voting system. We have to go out and participate in democracy in order for democracy to work. And so it is disheartening when you look at some of the numbers and see the low participation, and then you see people take actions that really are diametric opposed to what the everyday working class people want in their district. I have never, Marcia, went to one council district or senatorial or assembly district where people say, we don't want our police here. Just the opposite. So when I hear someone stand up advocating to disband police departments, or some people say we don't want police on the subway at all, I say, who are you representing? You know, that is not what New Yorkers want.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I have more voter questions, but we'll have to leave it right there for now. But we'll be right back with more from Mayor Adams. We're back talking to Mayor Eric Adams. One more voting question.
Yes.
I wonder how you feel about a bill in Albany that's supposed to pass, I think, between now and next week, that would make all the elections in New York in even years. So that would mean that the mayor, the city council would be running at the same time as the governor, the congressman, the president, if it was a presidential election year. Good idea, bad idea? How do you feel about it?
Well, number one, it saves money. These various election cycles, I think would increase voter participation. I need to read through the bill to get the in-depth analysis and ask those who really understand these number crunching what their thoughts are. But conceptually, I don't see a problem with. I don't know it's the best thing to have a complete change of government at one time. You want to sort of stagnate it a little. But conceptually, I like the idea, but I will have to dig into the bill more.
So what your reservation has to do with changing every part of government, right, all at the same time, because you think you need to have some consistency?
Some form of consistency on the state level, on the city level, on the federal level. But if there's a way to stagnate it, to protect that, conceptually, I think it's a good idea.
So another thing that Governor Hochul is talking about doing is to outlaw cell phones, actually the ones that connect to the internet, in schools. She would allow kids to take regular phones into schools that they can text with, just not that can connect to the internet.
Right. Good
idea, bad idea?
I love it. I think phones in schools are big distractions. I understand that, particularly after 9/11, parents wanted to have contact with their children. I respect that. But it is a huge distraction, from bullying to communications. There's a real distraction. School should be a place for learning, not for all that other stuff that's going on.
So you would support her bill that would outlaw cell phones in schools in New York State and in New York City?
I need to, the devil is always in the details. I need to look through it, but conceptually, I think phones are huge distractions. And I'm hoping that the school communities can come together and really look at that. We shouldn't even need a law. Each school community should say what policies we want around this phones.
So congestion pricing, another big issue. It's supposed to start in New York City at the end of June, which is this month. So here's the thing. As you know, the congestion pricing is supposed to raise $1 billion a year that could be bonded. But there are new reports that the MTA, that's not enough, that the MTA needs another $6 billion to weatherproof the system from climate change, so you won't have those floods and all the things that are stopping the system. Where is that money going to come from?
Huge question, great question. I believe we need help on the federal level and on the state level. So we're talking another tax? Are we talking the fare box? Are we talking New York City? I've long said I hope that New York City can manage its own transportation system, but the dollars need to come with it. I think New Yorkers, who they don't realize, I ask people on the subway system all the time, they think the mayor's in charge of the MTA. We're not. The mayor was not in charge of congestion pricing. The state turn it over to the MTA, but we have to properly fund our MTA to make sure that it's the first-class transportation system.
But the federal government hasn't been that forthcoming in terms of dollars for transportation in New York City. There's not a lot of love for New York City and Washington. So if you can't get the money from the federal government, is this going to mean that they're suddenly going to raise the congestion fee in order to weatherproof the system? I mean,
I hope
we have
not.
to do it.
I hope not. And we do, because climate change is real, and we're seeing the byproduct of that. And it's going to be a combination of the federal government and our state lawmakers. And we have great leaders up there. Assemblyman Hasty has always been an advocate for New York City. Majority Leader Andrew Stewart-Cousin. They understand, and I cannot say enough about what the governor and those two leaders did for New York City during the last budgetary cycle. They knew what we went through during the migrants and asylum seeker crises. They really stepped up for us. And matter of fact, they called me and said, we're going to be there for New York.
So another hot topic in New York City, pot shops. There are, I don't know, 15,000 illegals, maybe 2,000 at this point, illegal pot shops. You've taken a stab at it. I think you've closed about 200?
Yes, inspected over 300, closed over 200, and we're really starting to get our groove. We had a major bust over the weekend in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. I've said this before. I believe there's a major entity that's treating this like a chain store network. The products are the same methodology.
So why don't you find this network?
That's what we're doing. We think we found a main artery in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, but we have to continue to drill down on it.
But see, here's something that I've noticed.
Yes.
So a lot of these pot shops have decided, oh, they're going to come after me now. So they're now calling themselves healthful snack shops. And if you go into them, there's no pot, there's no CBD, there's nothing on the shelves, just things that would pass muster. But if you say, hey, listen, do you have any pre-roll or do you have any flour? They go in the back and they get the product. So how are you going to stop these people when looking at it, it looks normal?
Well, first of all, I'm really blown away that you know all the terminology. Let me start with that. But in addition to that,
excuse me, you know the terminology too, just for the record.
You know, but in addition to that, they're trying to get smarter, and they have attorneys who are organizing
so if they get smarter, how are you going to
We have to get smarter, and the lawmakers must remain fluent. We must make sure the law does not stagnate us and hurt the entire system and undermine the legalization of cannabis. And my biggest concern, Marcia, young people, when I speak to my teachers, they say, Eric, our children are high all the time. We're smelling cannabis on them.
Because the stores are so close to school.
And that's why we're targeting them. We're targeting them. We're going after those stores, and we're going to continue to close them down. We've been dogmatic. Anthony Miranda, the sheriff, has been amazing in this area.
So we only have about 1 minute left, but I have to ask you about Andrew Cuomo, who's increasingly active politically. Here's the question. You're a man who believes in second chances. Does he deserve a second chance, and does he have a political future?
I think everyone deserves a second chance. If I didn't have a second chance, I wouldn't be sitting on this couch having a conversation with you. This is all part of the process. The voters are going to determine who's going to be the next elected. We must sell our product. And this is going back to what I'm saying in that minute we have left about Adrian and I. You know, my biggest fear is that the 3 or 4 things we disagree in is going to overshadow what the first woman of color as the speaker, the second mayor of color, what we have accomplished. We've navigated us through COVID, through migrants, through crime. I'm so proud of what Adrian has accomplished as a speaker, and I bet if you ask her, she'll say she's proud of what I've accomplished as a mayor.
And that's all the time we have. We're going to have to leave it right there for now. But our conversation does continue right after the show on our streaming channel, CBS News New York. We're back with a bonus conversation you'll only see here on CBS News New York. And we thought it would be interesting to let everyday New Yorkers question the mayor. So, Mr. Mayor, first of all, Steve from the Village has a question about outdoor dining. Let's listen.
Mayor Adams, when are we going to get rid of these restaurant sheds that are blocking the streets? They were meant to be gone, wasn't it? In the winter, he said, they had to go. Seems like some of them are staying. Some of them are a mess and they're dangerous. Some of them are blocking good parking spots, which we need. Some of them are decent, but a lot of them still kind of are in disrepair. And are they going to go, or are they staying?
Steve has a question. Mayor has a...
I heard outdoor dining. It was a little low. He said that...
He basically, what he said was he wants to know when outdoor dining is going to continue, if the sheds are going to be taken down. He wants his parking spaces back. I know you've heard that one before.
Yes. But another victory for the speaker and I, that the outdoor dining program is the most extensive in the country, saved hundreds of thousands of jobs. It has brought a new flair to our city, particularly during the summertime. Outdoor dining is here to stay. We're going to take down the unsightly sheds, and we're going to make sure people adhere to the policy.
So what about some of these restaurateurs who say, you know, who's going to pay the cost of taking them down in the winter and putting them back up in the summer? Is the city going to give them any money, or is this just the cost of doing business? Well,
believe it or not, when they first put them up, they were not being charged that additional space, you know, which was a real win for many of them. It was a lifeline. I really take my hat off to Bill.
That was during COVID.
Right. Take my hat off to the former mayor for just even thinking this through, and Marjorie Velasquez, who was the real architect of this new bill. And so we want to keep down the cost as much as possible. Standardized, has to be clean, because you know it, I hate rats, and they were using it as their summer home, and we wanted to get rid of that and do it right.
Next question. Maggie from Manhattan wants to know about sky-high rents.
Mayor Adams, I want to know what you're going to do about housing inequality in Manhattan specifically and all over the 5 boroughs.
Housing inequality.
Well, listen, I will say it from one of the philosophers of our time: the rent is too damn high. You know, I'm the first to tell you that. And I made an agreement with my tenants that moved into my building years ago that I was not going to raise their rent as long as they were there, and I have not. How do we bring down housing costs? We look at the fact that we have 1.4% vacancy rate in the city and almost zero.
That means you have to build more housing.
There you go.
City of yes.
Exactly. And that's what Maggie should do. She should be talking to her local council people and say, let's help the mayor build more housing. We have 64 builders that want to do office conversion. We want more to do it. But she should speak to our local council person and say, City of yes, let's build more housing.
So how do you sell the City of yes to people who are afraid of living in a construction zone for years and years?
By telling them, think about their loved ones, their family members. Think about those who are living in homeless shelters. People should have a right to housing. We've financed more affordable housing in 1 year in the history of the city, transitioned more people out of shelters into permanent housing in the history of the city, and same with theft vouchers. But the reality is you cannot create thousands more jobs than the number of people that are looking for housing. We have to build more.
Josh from Peter Cooper Village has a question about cars and traffic.
Mayor Adams, I'd like to know about the bike infrastructure and what can be done about the passenger traffic, reducing passenger traffic in Manhattan. I think there's too many cars on the street with 1 or 2 passengers in it that take up a lot of room, and having more space for pedestrians and bicycles would be great.
I love it. Agree with him. And that's why we build bike lanes. That's why we're supporter of bus lanes in the right locations. You know, I'm a biker. I don't get to ride as much as I want to, but I agree 100%. But you need a first-class transportation system in order to do that.
So use your imagination.
Yes.
What will the streets of New York City look like in 5 years?
We don't have to use our imagination. We go to some of the European countries. You're going to see a greater use of biking, as Commissioner Cortez Vasquez is doing with our seniors, showing them the excitement of biking, protected bike lanes, encourage people to do it more. You're going to see more user space. Our amazing public realm officer, as we're starting to change the landscape. People love to see an expanded Fifth Avenue. How do you shop more? These larger boulevards. You're going to see a street where you're more use of everyday New Yorkers.
Okay, and last but not least, Jordan from Brooklyn is a bit more philosophical. He has this question.
Mayor Adams, I want to know who you are as a person. Like, who are you organically? Do you know yourself? How have you changed from like when you were about like 17, 16, or even like when you were 20?
So who are you and how have you changed since you were a teenager?
And that is a great question. I'm a person that believes in God and believes in the people of the city. This is the greatest city on the globe. And he reminded me of my son, Jordan, as we sit down and talk about who I was at 17.
Now, who were you at 17?
I was a inquisitive, a scared young man that felt that because of my learning disability, I would never become who I ought to be. And, you know, mommy said that, baby, you got this. And she was right, because I got this. I'm the 110th mayor of the city of New York.
So how did it change? What changed for you that made you get from scared kid to mayor of the city of New York?
People, you know, everyday people who, even when I didn't believe in myself, they were there to give me the support. You know, this is a place that is made up of really good people. We focus on the skyscrapers and tall buildings, but there's some tall heroes in this city. And I meet them every day, and they played a major role in my life.
So what advice do you have for people Jordan's age that are coming of age in very different times than you came of age?
And you're so right. Good Lord, I thank God that I raised Jordan already. For parents nowadays, these babies are being inundated with so much that we were never exposed to. But I say to those young people, stay focused. No distractions, and grind. People wake up every day trying to figure out how they're going to take them off their path. If you can stay focused and not be distracted and work hard, there's nothing that's unattainable for you.
Words to live by in the Adams administration. Mr. Mayor, thank you for joining me, and thank you at home for joining me as well.